must be a different approach. The test is not on paper. The test is not what the instructor says. The test is daily. The learning is continuous, all day long, everywhere you go. You see, the beauty of where we are as far as the global economy is that we don't know where our customers are. We don't know who they are. We don't know what they need. And even the smallest company can put on the front of a large company just because they understand the information hierarchy. And so if we're going to be sufficiently educated, not only do we have to look at the formal education process, we must look at the informal process. That means peers, dialogue. I was telling the lady that supports me in my office today, I said, you know, everyone has the same information. Everybody has access to the same information. The only difference is how you process it. And that's why it's so important to have meaningful dialogue. You know, people that call me on the phone and want to gossip about other people get hung up on real quick because I don't have time for the pain. You see, there's so much going on out here that I just kind of want to figure out where I am on any given day and at any given time. And so the education must be through your different news magazines. It should be through your newspaper articles. It should be watching the little kids. It could be anything, watching public television. I love to study competition. You know, after you've studied it for so long, people are no longer exciting. You know, so I'm preparing to deliver a presentation on competition. And in order for me to really get beyond the normal, I started to study the wilderness. Now, that's real competition. Because in the wilderness, it's kill or starve. And there's no ifs, ands, and buts about it. And we need to understand that in the workplace, it's the same thing. And if we don't understand the power of competition, if we don't understand that as we sit here and as we sleep, someone is losing sleep trying to figure out how to get our business and our jobs, we will be starving for the wrong reason. And so when we start to talk about education, we must understand that it's not necessarily going to be in a classroom with an instructor with a grade. Sometimes nobody will know but you. We are in an era where the certification is going to be personal. You must get comfortable self-certifying, in particular those who work for other people. You see, I'm convinced that we're all independent contractors. Some of us know it and some of us don't. And we have independent contractors who are out here on their own and people who are in the workplace. You see, because you're only as good as your last performance. And these people walking around with these attitudes of entitlement that think because they've been there, they're going to be there, well, you just wait. Because they won't be there. It's time for us to understand. Take a page from Robert Schull's book. He said, if it is to be, it is up to me. And that's where we are right now. And it's wonderful. Because you know what? There are people who will go to their graves and never know who they are. I think the only real true purpose in life is to figure out your perfect self-expression. Find out why you were born. Find out what you're good at. You know, when I walked away from the workplace, people asked me, why did you leave Xerox? That good job. I didn't leave Xerox. I just left work. I mean, if I were going to work today, I'd go back and beg them, please take me back. Because I think it's a wonderful company. But I expired. I expired from working for other people. And you have to know when you expire. There's some people who expire and they're just sitting there. And you know who they are. They're always griping and starting trouble and extending their coffee breaks and calling in late and finding all kinds of ways to beat the system because it's time for them to go. But we need to understand that when it's time to go, you cannot stay. You cannot stay. The education process is continuous, and if you would just open yourself up to find out who you are. You know, people ask me, well, how did you name your company Golden Eagle? That doesn't say anything. It doesn't say anything to you. It says everything to me. Because as I got bored and unfulfilled, I found myself pacing one day. I couldn't figure out. I thought I needed a new car. I thought I needed new clothes. I couldn't figure out what it was. I found myself saying one day, trying to put everything I know in one place is like trying to breed an eagle in a chicken coop. But now you know I'm from a real small town, and so all my analogies are going to be country analysis. And somehow that stayed on my subconscious. And I got more and more preoccupied with the eagle. And as I started to study the eagle, I determined that the golden eagle was exactly where I was at the time. But I know who I am. I said, making money shouldn't be painful. I have to be able to do what I like to do and get paid for it. And so I set out. And I just had this burning desire to find out what it was like to wake up and not have anybody waiting for me. You know, people ask me, well, did you do a 5-year plan? And I didn't do any plan. When I expired, cut over. I sit down and figured out that I could stay that way for 6 months before they started taking things from me. But I was ready to go. And I wanted to know what it was like to wake up and not have me, because all of my life I've been carried by the current. You have to go to school. You have to go to college. You have to do this. I wanted to know what it was like to it was like a merry-go-round. It was just going round and round and around and around, and I was a spindle, paying for something that I didn't care about, but I was using myself, the only thing that I had to pay for it. And it made no sense to me. I said, it's got to be better than this. And so there I was. Because I found that every time I would take on a new job, when I would master it, I'd get bored. And fortunately, I was with a company that was achievement oriented, so when I get good, I can go to another one and go to another one. But after a while, you can't fly. An eagle can't fly inside of a building. I don't care how big it is. I needed to fly without a net. And I have never been bored. Starting my 11th year, I'm not bored. I've been hungry. And then when I get hungry, I just kind of go to my neighbor's house and eat. They got 5 kids. I figured one more is not going to hurt. So the education is important. Lifelong learning, everyday learning. Make everything a learning experience. I mean, it is, and life is so funny. I mean, if you would just kind of look at things for the human, I see people going through these human workshops. I'm going, what is wrong with them? I mean, please, that's like going to class to learn how to be sincere. Just pay attention and stop taking yourself so seriously. I mean, listen, it doesn't matter what's going on, good or bad, it's going to change. And the only thing that you can do is be ready to change with it. That's it. And of course, the next thing that we have to do if we're going to personally respond is we have to be ready for action. We have to have a can-do attitude. And more than anything else, we have to be able to anticipate. You see, people want to think and think and think. And they want to go to school and go to school and go to school. And I bet you know a lot of people with a whole lot of education, but they are nowhere near where they want to be. Because without action, you may as well be ignorant. You must act. You must act. And it really doesn't matter what you act on, because if you think, and if you take time to educate yourself through whatever means, then you will have intelligent action. But many of us are afraid because there's always someone standing there telling you why it's not going to work. Oh, there's always somebody there. You can't do that. Well, have you done that? No, well, why can you tell me I can't do that? You cannot take me to some place you have not been. And I would say to you that you would never seriously consider anything unless you can really do it. You get into trouble when you tell other people because they don't want you to go any further than they are. Every single meaningful thing I have ever attempted, somebody was standing there telling me why I couldn't do it. And they were lying. Because not only could I do it, it was easy. I kept waiting for the pain. When is it going to hurt? Action. And it's in your attitude. So you have to manage your attitude. See, a lot of people don't believe it, but you can control your attitude. You put in good stuff comes out. Put in bad stuff comes out. If you don't believe it, if you've ever had a negative person in your life, think about what happens when they leave. You just think about it. I don't care how good you feel when they leave, you just feel so bad, you want to take a nap. Protect your head, because what you think determines what you feel, and how you feel determines how you act. I don't care how bad you feel, if you start to read positive things, if you talk to positive people, go out and take an old person out. They're so appreciative. Or go play with somebody's baby. You know, get somebody who's not all preoccupied. See, old people are old enough to know that they paid with their youth for things that were worthless when they got old, because they used their whole life trying to get money, and when they got old, they couldn't buy back the youth. It was worthless. And so you'll get a good, wonderful conversation out of them. You know, all this talk about mentoring, there's a reason to mentor now. You see, at first, when people talked about mentoring, it was like, get somebody experience, and then you kind of bring this person through the corporation, and you teach them the ropes. And so the mentor felt real powerful, because they could teach them the subtleties of survival. Well, guess what? Now the mentor gets to teach the subtlety of survival, and the young person gets to teach technical survival. It's a two-way street. Isn't that something, how the tables turn? So you have new reasons to merge the youth and the wisdom, and we have needed to do it for years. Oh, isn't God smart? For years and years, we have been pushing the older people further and further back, and the young people get out and think that they're needing about it, but the young people can't get anywhere without the wisdom, and the old people can't get anywhere without the energy. So if you put those two people together, you know, America might win this war. Isn't that something? Think about it. Action, a can-do attitude. And we have to anticipate. We have to look at not just what's here, but what we think is going to be there. Now, if we think, and if we educate, and if we do all of these things, we are going to make some intelligent decisions. But we must understand that just because you take actions, it doesn't mean you're always going to be successful. You're going to make some mistakes. And people just hate making mistakes. Nobody wants to be wrong, but you know, people who don't make mistakes don't make anything. And there's no way in the world we're going to survive the state that we're in unless we're willing to do some things that we haven't done. We have to learn the power of risk, and we have to learn the power of resilience. We have to learn how to come back. It reminds me of a story of a dog crossing a railroad track. And he was crossing this track, and before he could get off the track, a fast train came, cut off the end of his tail. Then he turned around and he looked at that tail, and he was just moaning and groaning, and another train came. Now that dog just had no business getting all upset about that little piece of tail. And end up losing his whole head. And that's what we do. You were expecting this promotion, and they gave you a lateral. And there you are with your attitude. Oh, I worked 5 years for this promotion. And then they decide you got a bad attitude, and then you come back and you got a pink slip. It's the same thing. We must learn to bounce back. The champion is not the one that never falls. It's the one that gets up again, 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 and again, and again. Now, we don't want to keep making the same mistakes. We want to go back to what Smokey Robinson said when he said, I'll try something new. You see, sometimes we need to keep trying, but not necessarily the same. We have to make intelligent choices. And so resilience and being willing to take a risk is imperative, or there will be no survival. And then finally, what we want to do is we want to talk about skill versatility. Skill versatility. Look at all of your skills, not the one the company told you that you had. You see, part of being able to survive is being able to do a whole bunch of things. Those things you learn in the cotton fields and on the farm. And you know what your skills are. Think about why people always call you. You know, it's just, oh, you know, you're so good at this and you're so good at that. And that's a skill. And we need to assess it. We need to enhance it. We need to be able to pull on it when we need to. You need to be technical, non-technical. You need to be flexible because you never know what you're going to need, and you may not even be where you are. You see, I'm saying, particularly if you're working for the people, you need to be good enough to stay and good enough to go. You see, the people who are worried and stewing around are those people who have no options. As they say in the country where I come from, they say it's a poor rat that only have one hole to run into. And if you're walking around nurturing one skill, boy, you're going to be a rat. It's not going to be a Microsoft mouse. And so when we think about it, we want to be able to think in a new way. We want to revisit education. We want to revisit action, attitude, more than anything else, anticipation. We want to get comfortable with risk and resilience. We want to make sure that we make an assessment of every single skill that we have, because that's all. When it's over, that's all you're going to be able to fall back on. Nobody gets into a car, no matter how expensive, without a spare tire, without a car phone, without AAA. So why would you walk around all day only being able to offer one skill? Because you got it. You find out who you are. Find out your genius. Find out your perfect self-expression. And when change comes, you take it personally. You want to make a personal response to change. Thank you very much.